Okay, Samantha Murray here. I am the head of product data at Compass Regulatory. And so I've been there for about a year. I previously came from a company called CDMS. And so I've spent about 15 years, 16 years now, in the intersection of ag data and technology. And so what I'm here to talk to you today is a little bit about why standardized data matters in the industry, and the hot topic of AI and kind of how we're integrating that into what we're doing. So Compass Regulatory, we're a newer company. I'd suggest you stop by our booth, learn a little bit more about us, but our main focus is all about regulatory compliance and how do we make that easy for those in the space. It's such a fun topic, right? Everybody wants to deal with regulatory compliance. But we have a couple offerings, and I'll get into the last one a little bit more later. But it really started off as working with chemical manufacturers and retailers that had regulatory compliance needs, whether that be getting into the US market, registering their products with EPA, the individual states. Every single state has their own set of regulations, their fee schedules, so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of need out there to kind of manage and track that information. And so we offer two services. One is somewhat like consulting, where we're actually assisting them through that process, helping them manage labels, create labels, work with those agencies. And then you have the other side of it, which we have a software platform for those agencies that have dedicated departments where they may not need that consulting portion, but they're looking to manage that information in a centralized place, and there's rules set up in that system to be able to help them, guide them through that. So fragmented data. We all know that we have all these different data silos within our organizations and across platforms. And so one of the things is you have all these different platforms that are capturing hundreds, thousands of different data points in different formats, in using different standards. And so even within the same organizations, you can have data silos of how different divisions handle and manage that information. And so what that does is it introduces potential errors, inefficiencies with communication between those groups and between different software platforms. Missed insights is another big one. So what standardization does is it enables interoperability between those, even whether or not it's within your same organization or across other platforms, whether you're an FMIS, an ERP, whatever you may be, you can then communicate that data back and forth if you're dealing with a standardized set of information. It helps you also leverage different types of reporting, because if you have product A in your system over on one side, you have product A on the other side, and they're not the same format or the same spelling or whatever it may be, you can't really build analytics off of that and certain types of reporting. So it enables that ability to create the reporting, compliance, just efficiencies in your day-to-day operations. What is foundational data? So when we think about foundational data, that's things that you can look at that have hierarchies, that are industry standards, using taxonomies to drive that structure. Crops, pests, things of that nature are very easy ones to think about. The example here, you can see you have a crop which is tied to a crop group, which is then tied to a specific crop, and so on and so forth. And that is building out a hierarchy. It's based off of a standard. So using that in correlation with crop input data. And so what is crop input data? So this example, we're looking at a pesticide label. And so you can see that you have the crop is cotton, you have an application type of foliar, you have PHI of 14, and you have days between applications of 7. All that information is located on that label, but it's not in a standardized format. Every single label has it in a different place, different location. There's inconsistencies on that label, different labels. And so taking that information and putting it into a standardized format is how you can start to build analytics off of that information. So one of the ways we're trying to do that is large language models. So the hot topic of the conference, AI, right? So one of those ways, I was just mentioning, you have different labels, different formats. And so we're using the LLMs to actually extract unstructured information off of those labels and put it into a structured format so we can build logic and analytics off of that data. And so what the models are doing is they are learning label formats. They can be used to spot inconsistencies on the label and map to a standardized set of foundational data that we can create a database for in the background. It speeds up processing where you can go from a human doing maybe one label, reading all of that information, to being able to process thousands of documents potentially. However, AI, we're still in kind of the infancy stages here, and so the human expertise is still very valuable. You have to have the regulatory context, the nuance, being able to interpret labels to make that really work, because you're building all of that intelligence into this large language model to be able to then extract that information, but without the context of it, how does it know what to extract? And so those domain experts can fill in some of those gaps by helping developers train the large language models, create the foundational data of what it should be looking for, the different data elements, validating output, because it's not 100% yet. So checking that and filling in the gaps where maybe the model overlooked or missed data when it was performing the extraction activities. So that combination of the data experts and the large language models brings some efficiencies to what we're doing, as well as level of quality, and gives us additional productivity so we can move faster. I like this quote: data is the foundation, standardization is the blueprint. So when you're looking at data within your own organizations, you want to define that core data and create detailed processes around managing, updating that information. And I think one of the things that a lot of organizations tend to overlook is that treating it like its own part of your business is kind of looked at as kind of secondary. And so treating it like infrastructure. So you have the strategic portion of it, make it reusable, and make sure it's well maintained, as far as keeping it up to date, making sure that you are not letting it get static, because as soon as it gets static, especially in the world that we're working in, it becomes obsolete. And then LLMs use it to accelerate, but make sure you have those key data experts to refine and check that information before it goes out to your users. So I know this is a really busy screen, and I'd love for you guys to stop by. I know I'm out of time, but would love you to stop by and talk a little bit to us about APIs and what we're doing, getting that data that we're capturing out to the market. Thank you.